She saw her billionaire CEO ex in a wheelchair sitting alone at a birthday party. Her son moved closer and called him Daddy. The moment Sarah walked into that birthday party, she never imagined her carefully built world would shatter in seconds. There he was, Daniel, the billionaire CEO she'd loved and left, sitting alone in a wheelchair while children played around him. But when her 5-year-old son broke free from her grip and ran straight to him, calling out the one word she'd kept locked away for years, everything changed. This is the story of a secret that couldn't stay hidden, a love that refused to die, and a little boy who brought his parents back together in the most unexpected way. Before we dive into this emotional journey, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Drop your city in the comments below. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our heartwarming stories. Sarah's hands trembled as she adjusted Ethan's birthday present one more time. The wrapped toy dinosaur crinkled under her nervous fingers. "Remember, baby, we're only staying for an hour," she whispered to her son, smoothing down his unruly dark hair. Hair that looked exactly like... "Mommy, look! Balloons!" Ethan bounced excitedly, pointing at the elaborate decorations adorning the Riverside Mansion's garden. Sarah forced a smile. She'd been dreading this party ever since receiving the invitation from her colleague Lisa. These wealthy neighborhood parties always made her feel out of place, but Ethan had been so excited about his first big birthday party invitation. The garden buzzed with children's laughter and parents' chatter. A massive bounce house dominated one corner, while a face-painting station occupied another. Sarah guided Ethan toward the gift table, her modest department store dress a stark contrast to the designer outfits surrounding her. "Sarah, you made it!" Lisa appeared in a flutter of silk and perfume. "Ethan, sweetie, the other kids are by the bounce house. Why don't you—" But Ethan wasn't listening. His entire body had gone rigid, his small hand slipping from Sarah's grasp. Before she could react, he was running, not toward the bounce house or the other children, but toward the patio where a lone figure sat in a wheelchair, watching the festivities from afar. "Ethan, no!" Sarah's heart stopped as she recognized the broad shoulders, the way he held his head, even from behind. It couldn't be. Not here. Not now. But her feet felt frozen to the manicured lawn as her son, their son, ran straight to Daniel Morrison, the man she'd loved more than life itself, the man she'd left without explanation 5 years ago, the man who'd become one of the youngest billionaire CEOs in the country, despite the accident that had taken his ability to walk. "Daddy!" Ethan's voice rang clear across the garden. "Daddy, I found you!" The entire party seemed to pause. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Even the children stopped playing. All eyes turned to the small boy throwing his arms around the wheelchair-bound man's neck. Daniel's face, God, that face she'd dreamed about for 5 years, transformed from polite detachment to absolute shock. His hands, those strong hands that used to hold her like she was everything, hovered uncertainly before slowly settling on Ethan's small back. Daniel's voice, deeper now but still carrying that slight rasp she remembered, faltered. His grey eyes, Ethan's eyes, found Sarah across the garden. The recognition hit him like a physical blow. Sarah. She wanted to run. Every instinct screamed at her to grab Ethan and flee. But her legs finally moved, carrying her toward them on autopilot, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Ethan, sweetheart," she managed, her voice barely a whisper. "This isn't... We need to go." "But, Mommy, it's Daddy." Ethan pulled back from Daniel's neck, his face glowing with innocent joy. "You said Daddy was far away working, but he's here, at Tommy's party." Daniel's hands tightened on Ethan's waist, his eyes never leaving Sarah's face. She saw it all there. The questions, the hurt, the dawning realization. His gaze dropped to Ethan, studying the familiar features, the dark hair, the stubborn chin that was purely Morrison. "How old are you, buddy?" Daniel's voice was carefully controlled, but Sarah heard the tremor underneath. 5. Ethan held up his hand proudly. "I'll be 6 in December. Mommy says I'm getting big. 5 years. Sarah saw Daniel doing the math, saw the moment understanding crashed over him like a wave. His jaw clenched, that telltale muscle jumping. A sign she remembered meant he was fighting for control. "Ethan," Sarah reached for her son, her hands shaking. "We need to—" "Is this why you left?" Daniel's question cut through her attempted escape like a blade. Quiet enough that only she could hear, but sharp enough to draw blood. This isn't the place," Sarah whispered, acutely aware of the dozens of eyes watching their drama unfold. "Daddy, why are you in a chair?" Ethan asked, patting Daniel's shoulder with the casual curiosity only a child could manage. "Did you hurt your legs?" Daniel's face softened as he looked at Ethan, their son. God, how had she thought she could keep this secret forever? "Yeah, buddy. I hurt them a long time ago, but I'm okay. Can you still play basketball? Mommy says you used to play basketball all the time." Sarah's cheeks burned. Daniel's eyes snapped back to hers, and she saw surprise mixed with something else. Was it hope? "You told him about me?" "He asked," she said defensively. "I couldn't. I didn't lie to him." "Just to me," Daniel said softly, and the hurt in his voice nearly broke her. "Daniel, please." "Sarah." Lisa appeared at her elbow, her party-perfect smile faltering as she took in the scene. "Is everything all right? I didn't realize you knew Daniel. He's my neighbor. His company just sponsored the children's hospital wing." Of course he did. Even paralyzed, Daniel Morrison was still the golden boy who saved the world. Sarah's throat tightened. This was exactly why she'd left. How could she and Ethan have competed with his destiny? How could she have asked him to choose between them and the empire he was building? "We need to talk," Daniel said, his CEO voice emerging, the one that commanded boardrooms and closed billion-dollar deals. But his hands were gentle as he lifted Ethan, settling him on his lap. "But not here. Sarah, please, give me that much." Ethan had made himself comfortable, playing with the controls on Daniel's high-tech wheelchair. "Mommy, can I stay with Daddy? Please? I want to show him my dinosaur book." The irony wasn't lost on her. She'd spent 5 years protecting Ethan from this moment, only to have him run straight into his father's arms at the first opportunity, like magnets, drawn together by blood and something deeper. "I don't think—" "1 hour," Daniel interrupted. "After the party. My house is next door. 1 hour, Sarah. You owe me that much." She wanted to argue that she owed him nothing, that she'd made her choice for good reasons, but looking at Ethan's face, so happy, so complete in his father's lap, she knew she'd already lost this battle. 1 hour, she agreed, her voice barely audible. Daniel nodded, then turned his attention back to Ethan. "So? You like dinosaurs?" "I love them. Mommy bought me a book with all the names. Do you know what a Pachycephalosaurus is? The one with the thick skull?" Daniel smiled and Sarah's heart clenched at how natural he looked with their son. Pretty cool dinosaur. As Ethan launched into an enthusiastic explanation of dinosaur facts, Sarah stood frozen, watching the two pieces of her heart fit together like they'd never been apart. Daniel's hand rested protectively on Ethan's back, and every few seconds his eyes would flick to her, as if making sure she hadn't vanished again. The party continued around them, but Sarah barely noticed. Her carefully constructed world, the one where she was just a single mum working at a marketing firm, where Ethan's father was simply away, where the past stayed buried, crumbled with each passing moment. "Daddy, are you coming to my birthday?" Ethan asked suddenly. "It's in December, and Mommy always makes chocolate cake." Daniel's voice caught. Would you want me there?" "Yes, and you can meet Mr. Bunny, and see my room, and— Mommy, can Daddy come to my birthday?" 2 pairs of identical grey eyes turned to her, one pair innocent and hopeful, the other guarded but equally hopeful beneath the hurt. We'll talk about it," Sarah managed. The next hour passed in a blur. Ethan refused to leave Daniel's side, chattering about school, his friends, his favorite foods. Daniel absorbed every word like a man dying of thirst, his eyes tracking every gesture, memorizing every expression. Other parents tried to approach, clearly curious about the drama, but Daniel's presence, even in a wheelchair, commanded a bubble of privacy around them. Sarah remembered that about him, how he could control a room without saying a word. When Lisa announced cake time, Ethan finally agreed to join the other children, but not before giving Daniel another hug. "Don't leave, okay, Daddy? Promise?" "I promise," Daniel said solemnly. "I'm not going anywhere." As Ethan ran off, silence descended between them. Sarah wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold despite the warm afternoon. 5 years, Daniel said finally. "He's been alive for 5 years, and I didn't know. Daniel, were you ever going to tell me?" His voice was controlled, but she heard the storm underneath. "Or was I supposed to just never know I had a son? It's complicated." "No, Sarah, it's not." He wheeled closer, and she caught his familiar scent, expensive cologne mixed with something uniquely him. "You left me. 3 weeks after my accident, you vanished. No explanation, no goodbye, nothing. And now I find out you were pregnant?" Sarah's eyes burned with unshed tears. "You had just lost everything. Your career, your mobility, your—" "I lost you," Daniel interrupted, his voice raw. "That was the only thing that actually mattered." The words hung between them, heavy with 5 years of unspoken truth. Sarah's carefully prepared explanations crumbled. How could she tell him that she'd left because she loved him too much to watch him sacrifice his dreams for her and a baby? How could she explain that every doctor had said he'd need to focus entirely on his recovery, that stress could impede his healing? "You were going to change the world," she whispered, "and you did. Morrison Tech, the charity foundation, everything you dreamed of." "None of it means anything," Daniel said flatly. "Not compared to what I missed. His first words, first steps, first day of school. 5 years, Sarah. You stole 5 years from me. If you're feeling the emotion of this moment, don't forget to hit that like button. Have you ever had to make an impossible choice for someone you loved? Share your thoughts in the comments below." The cake celebration continued in the background, Ethan's laughter carrying across the garden. Sarah watched their son, so happy, so unaware of the earthquake reshaping his world. "I was 22, she said finally. "Scared, alone, and 3 weeks pregnant. You were fighting for your life in the hospital, and the doctors said—" She paused, swallowing hard. "They said you might never walk again, that you'd need months, maybe years of therapy. How could I add a baby to that? That wasn't your choice to make." Daniel's hands gripped his wheelchair arms, knuckles white. "I loved you. We were building a life together. You were building an empire. Even from your hospital bed, you were taking calls, making plans. Your parents were already talking about how to minimize the damage to your image, how to spin the story. Where would a pregnant girlfriend have fit into that?" Daniel's laugh was bitter. "So you decided for me, for us." "I decided for him," Sarah's voice cracked, gesturing toward Ethan. "I couldn't be another burden for you to carry, and I couldn't watch you give up your dreams out of obligation." "Obligation?" Daniel's voice rose for the first time. "Is that what you thought? That I'd see my child as an obligation?" "You would have done the right thing. You always do the right thing. Married me, played house, and resented us both for the life you could have had." "The life I could have had?" Daniel laughed again, harsh and broken. "Sarah, I spent 2 years looking for you. 2 years of private investigators and dead ends. The only thing that kept me going through therapy, through building the company, was the thought that maybe I'd find you again." Sarah's tears finally spilled over. "Don't—" "And you were right here, in the same city, raising our son alone." His voice dropped to a whisper. "Did you ever think about me? About what I might want?" "Every day," she admitted, the words torn from her throat. "Every time Ethan smiled with your smile, laughed with your laugh. Every time he got that stubborn look that's pure Morrison, I thought about you every single day." But not enough to pick up the phone. "I picked it up 100 times. The confession burst out of her. "Do you know how many times I almost called, almost showed up at your office? But then I'd see another article about Morrison Tech's latest success, another photo of you at some gala, and I'd remember you got everything you wanted, everything you worked for." "Everything except my family," Daniel said quietly. The word family broke something inside her. They'd talked about family once, lying in his apartment as rain drummed against the windows. He'd said he wanted kids someday, maybe 2 or 3. She'd laughed and said he'd have to marry her first. He'd gotten quiet then, serious, and said, "I plan to," with such certainty it had taken her breath away. 3 weeks later, his car had been hit by a drunk driver, and everything had changed. "Mommy, Daddy!" Ethan came running back, frosting on his face and a paper plate in his hand. "I brought you cake." Daniel's face transformed as he looked at their son, all anger melting into wonder. "Thanks, buddy. Is it good?" "The best. Tommy's mom makes really good cake, but not as good as Mommy's chocolate cake." Ethan climbed back onto Daniel's lap without hesitation, settling in like he belonged there. Which, Sarah realized with a pang, he did. "Tell me about Mommy's chocolate cake," Daniel encouraged, shooting Sarah a look that promised their conversation wasn't over. As Ethan launched into a detailed description of birthday traditions, Sarah watched them together. Daniel's hand smoothed Ethan's hair absently, a gesture so paternal, so natural, it made her chest ache. This was what she'd denied them both. This easy affection, this instant connection. Her phone buzzed. A text from her babysitter asking about pickup time. The normal world intruding on this surreal moment. She'd built such a careful life. Small apartment, steady job, reliable childcare, safe, controlled. Everything Daniel's world wasn't. "So and then Mommy lets me lick the spoon," Ethan was saying. "Do you like chocolate, Daddy?" "Love it," Daniel assured him. Maybe I could come help make your birthday cake this year." Ethan's face lit up. "Really? Mommy, can Daddy help with my cake?" Before Sarah could answer, Lisa appeared again. "I hate to interrupt, but we're about to do presents. Ethan, sweetie, don't you want to watch Tommy open your gift?" Ethan looked torn, glancing between the promise of presents and his newly found father. "Go ahead," Daniel encouraged. "I'll be right here. I promised, remember?" After another hug that lasted just a bit longer than necessary, Ethan ran off. Daniel watched him go with an expression Sarah had never seen before, fierce, protective, amazed. "He's perfect," he said softly. "He's stubborn, opinionated, and too smart for his own good," Sarah replied automatically, then realized she'd just described Daniel himself. "Wonder where he gets that from," Daniel said dryly. Then, more seriously, "My house, after the party. We need to talk, really talk, not here with an audience." Sarah glanced around, noting the curious looks from other parents. Tomorrow the gossip would be everywhere. Single mom Sarah's secret baby daddy was Daniel Morrison. She could already hear the whispers. "I don't think—" "Sarah." The way he said her name stopped her cold. "I've missed 5 years, don't make me beg for an hour." She nodded, not trusting her voice. The rest of the party passed in snapshots. Ethan running between activities, always circling back to Daniel. Other parents trying to make small talk with Daniel, clearly fishing for gossip. Sarah hovering at the edges, caught between fleeing and the magnetic pull of watching her son with his father. When the party finally wound down, Ethan was reluctant to leave. He clung to Daniel's hand, chattering about everything and nothing. "And at school, we have a hamster named Mr. Whiskers, and sometimes I get to feed him and—" "Ethan, baby, we need to go," Sarah said gently. "Get your goodie bag and say thank you to Tommy." "But what about Daddy?" Daniel squeezed Ethan's hand. "I live right next door, buddy. The big white house with the blue door. Your mom's going to bring you over in just a few minutes, okay?" "Promise?" "I promise. And hey." Daniel reached into his pocket, pulling out a business card. He flipped it over and quickly sketched something. "Know what this is?" Ethan studied the drawing. "A dinosaur. A T-Rex. Keep this, and if your mom forgets to bring you over, you show her this and remind her about our visit. Deal?" "Deal." Ethan clutched the card like a treasure. Sarah's throat tightened. Even now, even angry and hurt, Daniel was protecting their son's feelings, making sure Ethan wouldn't think he was being abandoned. 15 minutes later, after goodbyes and thank yous and Ethan's excited recap of every moment with Daddy, Sarah found herself standing at Daniel's front door. The house was exactly what she'd expected, elegant, understated, worth more than she'd make in a lifetime. "Wow," Ethan breathed. "Daddy's house is big." Before Sarah could knock, the door opened. A middle-aged woman in a crisp uniform smiled at them. "Miss Chen, Mr. Morrison is waiting in the study. I'm Helen, the housekeeper. Would the young man like some juice and cookies in the playroom while you talk?" "I want to stay with Daddy," Ethan protested. Daniel appeared in the hallway, having changed from his party clothes into jeans and a soft sweater. The casual clothes made him look younger, more like the man she'd fallen in love with. "Hey, buddy, I've got something cool to show you first," Daniel said. "Then you can hang out while I talk to your mom about boring grown-up stuff. Sound good?" He led them through the house. All clean lines and warm colors, nothing like the cold showplace she'd imagined. They stopped at a room that made Ethan gasp. It was a state-of-the-art playroom, complete with every toy a 5-year-old could dream of. "This was supposed to be—" Daniel paused, his jaw tightening. "I had this room designed 3 years ago. Hope, I guess, that maybe someday—" Sarah's heart clenched. He'd built a playroom in hope of children. While she'd been reading bedtime stories to their son, he'd been preparing for a family that might never come. "Can I play with the trains?" Ethan asked, already eyeing the elaborate setup. "Everything in here is yours to play with," Daniel said. "Helen will stay with you, and she makes the best chocolate chip cookies in the world." After settling Ethan with Helen and enough toys to keep him occupied for hours, Daniel led Sarah to his study. The walls were lined with books and awards, but her eyes went immediately to his desk. Among the papers and technology sat a single framed photo, the two of them at graduation, her laughing at something he'd whispered, his arms around her from behind. "You kept it," she said softly. "It was all I had left," Daniel replied, wheeling behind his desk. "Sit, Sarah, please." She perched on the edge of a leather chair, feeling like she was in the principal's office. "Daniel, Let me talk first," he interrupted. "I need to say this while I can still think straight." He took a breath, running his hands through his hair in a gesture achingly familiar. "Do you know what the worst part of the accident was? Not the legs, not the months of therapy or the pain or the stairs. It was waking up after surgery and asking for you, only to have my mother tell me you were gone." Sarah's nails dug into her palms. "Your mother said you were better off without distractions." "My mother said a lot of things." Daniel's voice was bitter. "Did she tell you I refused therapy for 3 weeks because what was the point without you? Did she mention I nearly gave up on everything until my father threatened to have me committed? She said—" Sarah swallowed hard. "She said you were focused on recovery, that you'd already moved on." "Moved on?" Daniel laughed harshly. "I hired investigators. I called every friend, every acquaintance. I went to your apartment. Your roommate said you'd left no forwarding address. Your phone was disconnected. It was like you'd vanished from existence." "I had to," Sarah whispered. "If I'd stayed, if you'd known about the baby—" "I would have married you," Daniel said flatly. "Is that what terrified you? That I'd have done the right thing? You'd have given up everything, the company, the opportunities." "Stop." His voice cut through her protests. "Stop telling me what I would have done. You don't get to rewrite history to justify your choices. I loved you. Not past tense. Loved. Present. Active. Even when I hated you for leaving, I loved you." The words hung between them, raw and painful. Sarah felt tears sliding down her cheeks. "I was scared," she admitted. 22, pregnant, watching the man I loved fight to survive. Your parents made it clear I was a complication you couldn't afford. The doctors said stress could impede your recovery. I thought loving you meant letting you go. That's not love, Sarah. That's fear dressed up as nobility." Daniel's voice gentled slightly. "Did you think so little of me that I'd resent our child, that I'd choose a company over family? You were always so driven, so focused on success." "Because I wanted to build something," Daniel burst out. "For us. Every plan, every dream, you were part of it. The company, the money, none of it meant anything without someone to share it with." Sarah sobbed quietly, the weight of 5 years crushing her chest. "I'm sorry, God, Daniel, I'm so sorry, but I can't undo it. I can't give you back those years." No, he agreed quietly. You can't. But we have now. We have tomorrow. We have a son who looked at me like I hung the moon even though I'm a stranger in a wheelchair. You're not a stranger to him, Sarah admitted. I told him stories about his daddy who was smart and kind and brave. I showed him pictures. Not many, it hurt too much, but enough that he'd know your face. Daniel's expression softened further. He knew me. That's why he ran to me. I think he's been looking for you, Sarah whispered. Every tall man with dark hair, every playground dad. He's been searching without knowing it. Like I've been searching for you both. They sat in silence for a moment, the late afternoon sun slanting through the windows. From down the hall, they could hear Ethan's laughter mixing with Helen's patient responses. What happens now? Sarah asked finally. Now? Daniel leaned back, studying her with those intense grey eyes. Now we figure out how to be parents, together. I want to know everything. His favorite foods, his bedtime routine, what makes him laugh, what scares him. I want to be there for every birthday, every school play, every scraped knee. Daniel, I'm not asking you to marry me, he said quickly. I'm not asking for anything except the chance to be his father. To prove that, wheelchair or not, successful company or not, I can be the dad he deserves. You already are, Sarah said softly. Did you see his face? He's been waiting for you his whole life. What about you? Daniel asked, his voice carefully neutral. What have you been waiting for? The question caught her off guard. What had she been waiting for? For the pain to fade? For Ethan to stop asking about his daddy? For her heart to forget the shape of Daniel's smile? I've been surviving, she admitted. Working, raising Ethan, trying to build a life that made sense without you in it. And did it make sense? No, the word came out on a broken laugh. Nothing's made sense since I left you. I've been going through the motions, telling myself it was for the best, but watching you with him today, seeing how easy it was, how right, I robbed us all, didn't I? If this story is touching your heart, remember to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We all make choices we think are best at the time. Have you ever made a decision out of love that you later regretted? Let me know in the comments. Daniel wheeled around the desk, stopping close enough that she could see the gold flecks in his grey eyes. We can't change the past, Sarah, but we don't have to let it define our future. I don't know how to do this, she confessed, how to let you in after keeping you out for so long, how to explain to Ethan why Daddy hasn't been around, how to— One day at a time, Daniel interrupted. One moment, starting with dinner. Stay, both of you. Let me order Ethan's favorite food and hear about his school and pretend, just for tonight, that this is normal. He likes pizza, Sarah heard herself say. Cheese only, no vegetables, and chocolate milk, but only the kind with the blue label. Daniel smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him. Pizza it is. And tomorrow. Will you come back tomorrow? He has school. After school then, and the next day, and the next, until it stops feeling strange and starts feeling like home. Home. The word lodged in her throat. This house, with its perfect playroom and waiting father, already felt more like home than their small apartment ever had. Daddy! Ethan burst through the door, Helen trailing apologetically behind. Look what I made! He held up a complex train track configuration. It goes over the bridge and through the tunnel and— Are you crying, Mommy? Sarah wiped her cheeks quickly. Happy tears, baby. Ethan studied her suspiciously, then climbed into Daniel's lap with the confidence of a child who'd never known rejection. Daddy, are you sad too? No, buddy, Daniel said, his voice thick. I'm the opposite of sad. What's the opposite of sad? Happy, grateful, complete. Daniel's eyes met Sarah's over Ethan's head. All the good feelings mixed together. Oh, Ethan considered this. Like when Mummy says I can have ice cream for breakfast on my birthday. Exactly like that, Daniel laughed, the sound rusty but genuine. Speaking of food, how do you feel about pizza for dinner?" "Pizza?" Ethan bounced excitedly. "Can we eat it here, with you?" "I was hoping you would," Daniel said. "Is that okay with your mum?" Two pairs of grey eyes turned to her, hopeful, waiting, already so alike it took her breath away. "Yes," she managed. "We can stay." The next hours passed in a blur of ordinary magic. Pizza arrived. Cheese for Ethan, everything for the adults. Daniel had somehow procured chocolate milk with the right blue label. They ate in the kitchen, Ethan chattering non-stop between bites, filling 5 years of silence with 5-year-old observations. "Do you have a car, Daddy? Can I ride in it? Do you know how to swim? Can you teach me? Mummy says I'm too little, but I'm not. I'm big." Daniel answered every question seriously, giving Ethan his full attention. Sarah watched them, memorizing the moment. Ethan's animated gestures, Daniel's focused expression, the way they both tilted their heads the same way when thinking. "Bath time soon," Sarah said eventually, noting Ethan's drooping eyes despite his excitement. "No," Ethan whined. "I want to stay with Daddy." "How about this?" Daniel suggested. "You go home with Mommy tonight, and tomorrow after school you can come back. We'll have lots of tomorrows, okay?" "Promise?" Ethan's voice was small, uncertain. "I promise. And you know what? Give me your hand." Daniel held out his pinky. "Pinky promise. That's the most serious promise there is." Ethan linked his tiny finger with Daniel's, face solemn. "Okay, but tomorrow for sure?" "Tomorrow for sure." As Sarah bundled Ethan into his jacket, Daniel wheeled them to the door. "Sarah, wait." He pulled out a key. "This is for you, for the house. Come whenever you want. Stay as long as you like. No pressure, no expectations. Just don't disappear again." The key was warm in her palm, heavier than its size suggested. "Daniel, I can't just—" "Yes, you can. You're the mother of my child. This house is as much Ethan's as mine. And—" He paused, vulnerability flashing across his face. "I need to know you won't run again. That I won't wake up tomorrow to find you've vanished. We'll be here," she promised, the words feeling like a vow. "Tomorrow and the day after and—" "Forever?" Ethan piped up hopefully. "Can we stay forever, Mommy?" Sarah's eyes met Daniel's. In them, she saw the same question, the same hope their son had voiced. "We'll see, baby," she said softly. "We'll see." As they walked to her car, Ethan clutching his dinosaur drawing and talking about all the things he'd show Daddy tomorrow, Sarah felt something shift inside her chest. The walls she'd built, the careful distance she'd maintained, all of it crumbling under the weight of what she'd witnessed today. Daniel, in his wheelchair, watching them from the doorway. Still there, still waiting, still loving them both with a fierce devotion that 5 years and 1,000 miles couldn't diminish. "Mommy?" Ethan said as she buckled him into his car seat. "Is Daddy coming to my birthday now?" "Yes, baby. Daddy's coming to your birthday." "Good," Ethan yawned. "I want to show him my room, and Mr. Bunny, and the park, and school, and—" He was asleep before they reached the first stop sign, clutching the business card with its T-Rex drawing. Sarah drove through familiar streets that suddenly looked different, like the whole world had shifted 3 degrees to the left. Her phone buzzed at a red light. A text from Daniel. "Thank you for today, for him, for the chance. Sleep well, both of you." She typed back quickly. "Thank you for waiting, for hoping, for being exactly who he needed you to be." "Who you both need me to be," came the immediate response. "Always." Sarah smiled through fresh tears. Tomorrow, she'd have to figure out logistics, schedules and custody, and how to merge 2 lives that had diverged so dramatically. Tomorrow, she'd have to answer Ethan's inevitable questions and navigate Daniel's justified anger and hurt. But tonight, she had a son sleeping peacefully in the back seat, happy and complete in a way he'd never been before. She had a key in her pocket and a promise of tomorrow. She had the memory of Daniel's face when Ethan called him Daddy, like every broken piece of him had suddenly mended. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. It wasn't a magic reconciliation that erased 5 years of absence, but it was a beginning, a second chance, a family finding its way back together, one pinky promise at a time. The next morning came too quickly. Ethan woke up talking about Daddy, barely touching his breakfast in his excitement about after school. Sarah moved through their morning routine in a daze, everything feeling both normal and completely different. "Mummy, do you think Daddy likes dinosaurs as much as me?" Ethan asked as she walked him to his classroom. "I think Daddy likes everything you like," Sarah said honestly. "Good. I'm going to draw him a picture today. Ms. Johnson says I'm the best at dinosaurs." Sarah kissed him goodbye, watching him race to his desk to start his drawing. Her little boy, who'd woken up yesterday with one parent and gone to bed with two. Her phone rang as she reached her car. "Daniel." "Is this too early?" he asked without preamble. "I didn't sleep. I kept thinking I'd dreamed it all." "I know the feeling," Sarah admitted. "Ethan's been up since 6 talking about you." "Really?" The wonder in his voice made her heart ache. "He's making you a dinosaur picture." "God, Sarah." His voice broke slightly. "I have a son. We have a son. I can't... I'm trying to be angry. I am angry, but I'm also so grateful I can't breathe." "I know," she whispered. "I'm sorry. I'll say it 1,000 times." "Don't," Daniel interrupted. "Not now. Right now, I just need to know you'll bring him later, that this is real." 3:30, she promised. "He gets out at 3, and it takes about 30 minutes to get to your place." "Our place," Daniel corrected softly. "It's Ethan's home too, if he wants it." The possessiveness in his voice should have frightened her. Instead, it warmed something that had been cold for 5 years. At work, Sarah struggled to concentrate. Her computer screen blurred as she replayed yesterday's events. Her colleague Lisa cornered her at lunch, eyes bright with curiosity. "So, Daniel Morrison," Lisa said meaningfully. "Care to share?" "It's complicated," Sarah muttered. "I'll say, the way that little boy ran to him..." "Sarah, is Daniel..." "Yes," Sarah cut her off. "Yes, he's Ethan's father." "No, I don't want to discuss it. Yes, I know I have a lot of explaining to do." Lisa's expression softened. "Honey, I'm not judging, but Daniel Morrison, the Daniel Morrison, how did you even meet him?" "College," Sarah said simply. "Before the accident, before everything." "And you never told him about Ethan?" Sarah's silence was answer enough. "Oh, honey," Lisa sighed. "What are you going to do now?" "I don't know," Sarah admitted. "Try to make it right, I guess. Try to give them both what I stole." The afternoon crawled by. When 3 o'clock finally arrived, Sarah practically ran to her car. Ethan was waiting at pickup, bouncing with excitement, his dinosaur picture clutched carefully in both hands. "Is it time? Can we go see Daddy now?" "Yes, baby, we can go see Daddy." The drive felt both endless and too quick. Sarah's hands shook as she pulled into Daniel's driveway. Before she could turn off the engine, the front door opened. Daniel was there, waiting. "Daddy?" Ethan scrambled out of his car seat, racing up the walk. "I made you something, look." Daniel caught him easily, lifting him onto his lap. "Wow, buddy, is this a brachiosaurus?" "Yes, you know dinosaurs," Ethan beamed. "Mummy said you might." Sarah approached slowly, carrying Ethan's backpack. Daniel looked up at her, and the raw emotion in his eyes made her steps falter. "Hi," she said, inadequately. "Hi," he replied. Then to Ethan, "Want to see something cool?" He led them through the house to a room she hadn't seen yesterday. It was an office, but one wall was covered in screens showing various projects. With a few taps on his chair's control panel, the screens changed to display dinosaur animations. "Whoa," Ethan gasped. "How did you do that?" "Computers," Daniel said, grinning at Ethan's amazement. "Want to learn?" For the next hour, Sarah watched Daniel patiently show Ethan basic programming concepts using dinosaurs as examples. Her son, their son, absorbed it all with the same intense focus Daniel brought to everything. "He's brilliant," Daniel said quietly, while Ethan was absorbed in making a T-Rex move across the screen. "Gets that from you." "The stubbornness is all Morrison," Sarah replied. "The determination," Daniel corrected. "It'll serve him well." Helen appeared with snacks, cut fruit, and those specific crackers Ethan loved. Sarah raised an eyebrow. I may have done some shopping, Daniel admitted. Made a list of everything you mentioned yesterday. Daniel! I have 5 years of snack preferences to catch up on, he said firmly. Let me do this. After snacks, Ethan wanted to show Daniel everything. His backpack, his school papers, the rock he'd found at recess. Daniel treated each item like a treasure, asking questions, making appropriate amazed noises. Daddy, do you have work? Ethan asked suddenly. Mommy always has work on her computer. I do, Daniel said, but it's not as important as spending time with you. What kind of work? I help make computers and programs that help people, Daniel explained simply. Like the dinosaur program, but for hospitals and schools. Cool, can I see? Daniel glanced at Sarah, who nodded. He pulled up a simple program his company had developed for children's hospitals, letting young patients play games during treatment. This helps kids who are sick feel better, he explained. Ethan studied the screen seriously. Like when I had to get shots and Mommy let me play games on her phone. Exactly like that. That's good, Ethan decided. Helping people is good. Mommy helps people too. She makes pictures that tell stories. I know, Daniel said softly, his eyes finding Sarah's. Your mummy's always been good at telling stories. The weight of that statement, the truth and the lie within it, hung between them. Can we stay for dinner again? Ethan asked hopefully. Actually, Daniel said, I was thinking we could cook dinner together. What do you think? Want to help me make spaghetti? Yes, Mummy, can we? Sarah nodded, not trusting her voice. The domesticity of it all was overwhelming. Ethan on Daniel's lap, the two of them planning dinner like it was normal, like they'd done this 100 times before. In the kitchen, she watched Daniel navigate the space with practiced ease, his chair gliding smoothly between counter and stove. He'd adapted everything to his height, she realized. The boy who'd once dreamed of playing professional basketball had rebuilt his world to fit his new reality. Ethan, you can stir, Daniel instructed, positioning him safely away from the heat. Your mum used to make the best garlic bread. Think she remembers how? You remember that? Sarah asked softly. I remember everything, Daniel replied, his voice equally quiet. Every moment, every meal, every morning waking up next to you, thinking I was the luckiest man alive. Daniel. Mommy makes good garlic bread, Ethan interrupted, oblivious to the tension. With the cheese on top. My favorite, Daniel said, ruffling Ethan's hair. Think she'll make it for us. And just like that, Sarah found herself falling into old patterns, moving around Daniel in the kitchen with remembered ease, their bodies finding a rhythm they'd perfected years ago. He'd reach for something, and she'd already be handing it to him. She'd look for a spice, and he'd point to the right cabinet, without being asked. You two cook good together, Ethan observed, like a team. We used to cook together all the time, Daniel told him. Your mom taught me everything I know. That's not true, Sarah protested. You taught yourself. I just kept you from burning down the apartment. Remember the smoke alarm incident? Daniel grinned, and suddenly he looked 21 again, carefree and whole. What smoke alarm? Ethan demanded. Your daddy tried to make breakfast in bed. Sarah found herself smiling at the memory. Set off every smoke alarm in the building. The fire department came, Daniel added. 3 trucks. Your mom answered the door in her pajamas. Your dinosaur pajamas, Sarah laughed, remembering. The firefighters tried so hard not to laugh. You looked adorable, Daniel said softly, even covered in flour from trying to save my disaster pancakes. They stared at each other across the kitchen, the past and present blurring together. Ethan looked between them, his little face thoughtful. Were you married? He asked suddenly. Like Tommy's parents? The question shattered the moment. Sarah turned away, busying herself with the bread. Nobody, Daniel said carefully. We weren't married, but we loved each other very much. Do you still love each other? If you're enjoying this emotional journey, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Sometimes love gets a second chance. What do you think Sarah and Daniel should do? Share your thoughts below. That's a complicated question, Sarah said finally. Why? Ethan pressed with 5-year-old directness. Love isn't complicated. You love someone or you don't. Daniel's eyes never left Sarah's face. Sometimes grown-ups make things more complicated than they need to be. That's silly, Ethan decided. If you love someone, you should tell them. Ms. Johnson says honesty is important. Ms. Johnson sounds very smart, Daniel said. What else does she say? As Ethan launched into stories about his teacher, Sarah felt Daniel's gaze on her. The question hung unspoken between them. Did she still love him? Had she ever stopped? Dinner was a success, with Ethan chattering happily between bites. He insisted on sitting next to Daniel, occasionally patting his arm as if to make sure he was still there. This is fun, Ethan announced. Can we do this every day? Would you like that? Daniel asked carefully. Yes, and breakfast too. Do you eat pancakes for breakfast? I like pancakes with syrup. Mommy makes them on Saturdays. I love pancakes, Daniel assured him. Maybe this Saturday you could come have pancakes here? Can we, Mommy? Ethan turned pleading eyes to her. We'll see, Sarah said, the standard parent non-answer. That means maybe, Ethan told Daniel sagely. But usually it turns into yes if I'm really good. Daniel chuckled. Good to know. I'll remember that. After dinner, Ethan started yawning despite his protests that he wasn't tired. Daniel showed him more of the house, including a bedroom that made Ethan gasp. Is this for me? He asked, taking in the dinosaur theme, the perfect-sized furniture, the toys waiting to be played with. If you want it, Daniel said, for when you visit, or for whenever you want to use it. Ethan explored the room with wonder, examining every toy, testing the bed, opening drawers. Sarah stood in the doorway, her heart breaking and mending simultaneously. You did all this today? She asked quietly. I had help, Daniel admitted. A team of designers on standby. I might have gone overboard. It's perfect, she said, watching Ethan discover a bookshelf full of dinosaur books. He's going to want to move in immediately. That's the idea, Daniel said softly. Sarah, I know we need to talk. Really talk. About custody. About co-parenting. About us. But right now, I just want to give him everything. Be everything he needs. You already are, Sarah assured him. Look at him, Daniel. He's happier than I've ever seen him. Daddy, look, Ethan called. This book has all the dinosaurs, even the flying ones. Pterodactyls, Daniel said, wheeling over. Want to read it together? They settled on the bed, Ethan curled against Daniel's side, the book spread across their laps. Sarah watched from the doorway as Daniel read, doing voices for different dinosaurs, making Ethan giggle. This was what she'd denied them. This easy affection, this perfect fit. Her eyes burned with tears she refused to shed. Mommy, come read too, Ethan called, patting the bed beside him. Sarah hesitated, but Daniel's eyes were warm, inviting. She sat carefully on Ethan's other side, their son sandwiched between them. Family sandwich, Ethan declared happily, snuggling closer to both of them. Family. The word echoed in the room, in their hearts, in the space between what was and what could be. As Daniel continued reading, his voice deep and soothing, Sarah felt Ethan's body relax into sleep. Their eyes met over his head. Let him sleep, Daniel whispered. Please. Just for a little while. I need to watch him sleep, to know he's real. Sarah nodded, understanding completely. They sat in silence, watching their son's chest rise and fall, his face peaceful in sleep. He looks like you when he sleeps, Daniel said softly, same little furrow between his eyebrows. He got your stubbornness, though, Sarah whispered back, and your curiosity. Always has to know how everything works. Tell me about when he was born, Daniel requested. Please, I need to know. Sarah closed her eyes, remembering. November 28th, 3 in the morning. He was early, too eager to get into the world. I was terrified, alone except for the nurses. But then they put him on my chest, and he looked up at me with these serious grey eyes, like he was memorizing my face, and I thought he looked just like you. Daniel's hand found hers across Ethan's sleeping form. I should have been there. I know. Sarah squeezed his fingers. I'm sorry. I'll never stop being sorry. I don't want apologies, Daniel said. I want tomorrows. I want bedtime stories and Saturday pancakes and teaching him to ride a bike. I want fights about homework and worries about scraped knees and pride at school plays. I want it all, Sarah. Every moment I missed and every moment still to come. He needs you, Sarah admitted. He's needed you all along. I see that now. What about you? Daniel asked, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. What do you need? The question hung in the air, heavy with possibility. Sarah looked at their joined hands, at their son sleeping peacefully between them, at the life they could have had playing out in might-have-beens. I need, she started, then stopped. I need to earn your forgiveness, to prove I won't run again, to show you that the scared 22-year-old who left isn't who I am anymore. You don't need to earn anything, Daniel said firmly. Just stay. Be here. Let me know you both. Ethan stirred, mumbling something about T-Rexes in his sleep. They both smiled. We should get him home, Sarah said reluctantly. School tomorrow. Or, Daniel suggested carefully, he could stay here, in his new room. I can drive him to school in the morning. Daniel, I don't think, please, he said simply. One night. I'll sleep on the couch in here if it makes you feel better. I can't let him go yet. Either of you. Sarah looked at Ethan, so peaceful, so perfectly at home in this room designed just for him. His school clothes, we'll figure it out, Daniel promised. Helen can wash what he's wearing, or I'll buy new ones, or wrap him in a dinosaur costume, whatever it takes. Despite everything, Sarah laughed softly. You can't solve everything with money, Daniel Morrison. No, he agreed, but I can try to make up for lost time with love. And yes, maybe a little money, is that so wrong? His toothbrush, already bought one, and dinosaur toothpaste, and those vitamins shaped like cartoon characters. Sarah, I've been preparing for this day for 3 years. Please, stay. The word hung between them, meaning so much more than just tonight. Okay, she whispered. We'll stay. Daniel's face transformed, joy and relief flooding his features. Thank you. God, Sarah. Thank you. They carefully tucked Ethan into his new bed, the dinosaur comforter pulled up to his chin. He stirred slightly, mumbling, Daddy, in his sleep. I'm here, buddy, Daniel whispered. I'm right here. In the hallway, they stood awkwardly, the intimacy of putting their child to bed giving way to the reality of their situation. The guest room is made up, Daniel said, or you could take the master. I usually sleep in the study anyway, easier with the chair. The guest room is fine, Sarah said quickly. Daniel, about tomorrow, we'll figure it out, he interrupted. All of it, custody, schedules, whatever you need. I'm not going to push, Sarah, I'm just grateful you're here. I should be the one who's grateful, she said. The way you've welcomed him, no questions, no hesitation. He's my son, Daniel said simply. There's nothing to question. I loved him the moment he called me Daddy. Hell, I loved him before I even knew he existed. Sarah's eyes filled with tears. I used to dream about this, you and him together, but I'd convinced myself it was impossible, that too much time had passed, that you'd hate me. I could never hate you, Daniel said softly. Trust me, I tried. For about 5 minutes after you left. Then I just missed you too much to waste energy on hate. I missed you too, Sarah admitted. Every day, every moment. When Ethan laughed like you, when he got that determined look, when he insisted on figuring things out himself, you were everywhere, in everything. Then why? Daniel's voice cracked. Why didn't you come back? Because I was a coward, Sarah said simply. Because every day that passed made it harder. How do you call someone after a year and say, surprise, you have a son? After 2 years, 3? I'd built this wall of lies and I couldn't see over it anymore. Daniel moved closer, his chair nearly touching her feet. We've wasted enough time on regret. I don't want to look backward anymore, Sarah. I want to look forward. To tomorrow, next week, next year. To Ethan's first day of school, his graduation, his wedding. I want to be there for all of it. Me too, Sarah whispered. Then stay, Daniel said again. Not just tonight. Stay. Move in. Let's be the family we should have been all along. Daniel, we can't just... Why not? He challenged. Give me one good reason why not. We love our son. We want what's best for him. He paused, taking a breath. I still love you, Sarah. That never changed. That will never change. The words hung between them, raw and honest. Sarah felt her carefully constructed walls crumbling completely. I love you too, she admitted, the words torn from her heart. I never stopped. But love isn't always enough. It's a start, Daniel interrupted. Love and forgiveness and second chances. That's all we need to start. From down the hall, they heard Ethan call out, Daddy, Mommy? They both moved toward his room, finding him sitting up, rubbing his eyes. Hey, buddy, Daniel said softly. Bad dream? No, Ethan yawned. Just wanted to make sure you were still here. We're here, Sarah assured him, sitting on the edge of the bed. Both of us. Good, Ethan snuggled back down. Can we have pancakes tomorrow? Absolutely, Daniel promised, with extra syrup. And then I go to school? I'll drive you, Daniel said, if that's okay with your mom. Ethan's sleepy eyes moved between them. Are you going to live together now? Like real families? Sarah and Daniel exchanged glances over his head. We're talking about it, Sarah said carefully. Good, Ethan mumbled, already drifting back to sleep. I want us all together, forever and ever. As they tucked him in again and crept back to the hallway, Daniel caught Sarah's hand. Forever and ever, he repeated. I like the sound of that. Daniel, I know it's fast. I know we have things to work through, but Sarah, we've already lost 5 years. I don't want to lose another day. Sarah looked at their joined hands, at the man she'd loved since she was 19, at the father of her child who'd welcomed them both without hesitation. Okay, she said softly, okay? Let's try. For Ethan. For us. Let's try to be a family. Daniel pulled her into his arms, and for the first time in 5 years, Sarah felt truly home. They held each other in the dim hallway, years of pain and loneliness melting away. I have something for you, Daniel said eventually, pulling back. He led her to his study, reaching into his desk drawer. I bought this 3 weeks before the accident. I was waiting for the perfect moment. The velvet box was worn at the edges, clearly handled often. Inside sat a simple, elegant ring, exactly what she would have chosen. I'm not proposing, Daniel said quickly at her sharp intake of breath. Not yet, but I wanted you to know, I was always going to choose you, Sarah. Always. The accident didn't change that. Success didn't change that. Nothing could change that. Sarah touched the ring gently, tears flowing freely now. I was so wrong, about everything. No, Daniel said firmly. You were young and scared and trying to protect everyone, but we're here now. That's what matters. What do we tell people? Sarah asked. Your parents, my family, everyone who's going to have opinions. The truth, Daniel said simply, that we found our way back to each other, that our son brought us home, that love wins, even when it takes the long way around. The next morning came with dinosaur pancakes and sleepy giggles. Ethan was thrilled to have both parents at breakfast, chattering about showing his friends his daddy. What if they don't believe me? He asked suddenly, syrup on his chin. Why wouldn't they believe you? Daniel asked. Because I said my daddy was far away. Now you're here, they might think I made it up. Well, Daniel said thoughtfully, what if I pick you up from school today? Then everyone can see. Really? Ethan's face lit up. In your cool chair? My cool chair and everything, Daniel promised. As Sarah got ready for work in the guest room, she'd have to go home for clothes soon, she heard Daniel and Ethan in the kitchen planning their day. Their voices blended together, punctuated by laughter, sounding like they'd done this every morning for years. Ready? Daniel asked when she emerged. Ethan was dressed in his cleaned clothes from yesterday, backpack on, practically vibrating with excitement. "Daddy's taking me to school," he announced. "In his special van, it has buttons and everything." The ride to school was filled with Ethan's questions about every feature of Daniel's modified vehicle. Sarah sat in the passenger seat, watching Daniel's patient explanations, his obvious joy at this simple parental task. At the school, word had clearly spread. Other parents stared as Daniel's wheelchair ramp descended, as Ethan proudly walked beside his father, chattering non-stop. "That's my teacher," Ethan pointed. "Miss Johnson, come meet my daddy." Miss Johnson, a kind-faced woman in her 50s, approached with a warm smile. "You must be Mr. Morrison. Ethan hasn't stopped talking about you since yesterday." "All good things, I hope," Daniel said, shaking her hand. "The best," she assured him. "He's been drawing dinosaur families all morning. Mommy dinosaur, daddy dinosaur, and baby dinosaur, all together." "Can I show Daddy my desk?" Ethan asked. 5 minutes, Ms. Johnson agreed. As Ethan dragged Daniel into the classroom, several other parents approached Sarah. "Is that really Daniel Morrison?" one whispered. "The tech billionaire?" "Yes," Sarah said simply, watching through the window as Ethan showed Daniel every corner of his classroom world. "And he's Ethan's father. How did you, when did you—" "It's a long story," Sarah cut off the questions. "What matters is he's here now." When they finally said goodbye to Ethan, with promises to pick him up together, Daniel was quiet on the drive back. "Thank you," he said finally, "for this morning. For letting me be just another dad at school drop-off. It was perfect." "You are just another dad," Sarah said. "A dad who happens to run a billion-dollar company, but still just a dad who loves his son." "Our son," Daniel corrected. "I love the sound of that. Our son." They spent the morning sorting practicalities, Sarah calling in sick to work, Daniel clearing his schedule. They talked about schools, about combining households, about how to explain their sudden family to the world. "I want to do this right," Daniel said over coffee. "Legal custody arrangements that protect everyone. Child support—" "I don't want your money," Sarah interrupted. "It's not for you. It's for Ethan. College funds, trust funds, making sure he's always taken care of. Please, Sarah, let me do this part right at least." She nodded, understanding his need to provide, to make up for lost time in tangible ways. "And us?" she asked quietly. "What about us?" Daniel reached across the table, taking her hand. "We go slow. We date. We learn each other again. We become friends, partners, whatever you need. I'm not going anywhere, Sarah. We have time." "Time," she repeated, the luxury of it spreading before them. "I like the sound of that. If this story has touched your heart, please remember to like and subscribe. Sometimes the best families are the ones that find their way back together. Share your thoughts on second chances in the comments below. 3 months later, Sarah stood in what was now their kitchen, frosting Ethan's birthday cake. December 15th, the day their son turned 6, and the day their lives had truly begun again. "Higher!" Ethan laughed from the living room, where Daniel was giving him a flying ride, zooming his chair around while Ethan spread his arms like airplane wings. "Any higher and you'll hit the ceiling," Daniel warned, but spun once more, earning delighted squeals. The house was decorated with dinosaurs and balloons. Ethan's grandparents, both sets, would arrive soon along with school friends and their parents. It had taken time to navigate the family dynamics, but watching Daniel's parents fall in love with their grandson had healed wounds Sarah hadn't even realized were still bleeding. "Careful," she called out, but she was smiling. These two daredevils of hers, always pushing boundaries. "Mommy, look," Ethan called. "Daddy taught me to do wheelies." "Daniel Morrison, you better not be teaching our son dangerous tricks," Sarah warned, coming to the doorway. Daniel grinned up at her, unrepentant. "Would I do that?" "Yes," she said flatly, but her eyes were warm. The doorbell rang, starting the flood of guests. Soon the house filled with children's laughter, parents chatting, the controlled chaos of a successful birthday party. Sarah watched Daniel navigate it all with grace, playing with the kids, charming the parents, being simply Ethan's dad. No one mentioned the chair anymore. It was just part of him, like his grey eyes or the way he laughed with his whole body. "Sarah?" Her mother appeared at her elbow. "You look happy, sweetheart." "I am," Sarah said simply, "happier than I ever thought possible." "He's good with Ethan," her mother observed, watching Daniel help a group of kids with a dinosaur puzzle. "He's amazing," Sarah agreed. "They both are." "And the wedding?" Sarah touched the ring on her finger, the same one Daniel had bought 6 years ago, finally in its rightful place. "Spring. Something small, just family and close friends. Ethan's already planning his role as ring bearer." "I'm glad," her mother squeezed her hand. "You all deserve this happiness." As the party wound down and guests departed, Ethan crashed on the couch, surrounded by presents and wrapping paper, chocolate cake smeared on his cheek. "Best birthday ever," he mumbled sleepily. "Yeah?" Daniel asked, settling beside him. "What was the best part?" "Having both of you," Ethan said simply. "Together, like a real family." "We are a real family," Sarah said, sitting on Ethan's other side. "Maybe not the traditional way, but real, all the same." "Forever and ever?" Ethan asked, his eyes already closing. "Forever and ever," Daniel promised, meeting Sarah's eyes over their son's head. Later, after Ethan was tucked into bed and the house was quiet, Sarah and Daniel sat on the back porch, watching stars appear in the darkening sky. "Do you ever think about how different things could have been?" Daniel asked quietly. "Sometimes," Sarah admitted. "But then I think, maybe this is how it was meant to happen. Maybe we needed those years apart to become who we are now, strong enough, wise enough to build something lasting." "Very philosophical," Daniel teased, but pulled her closer. "I prefer to think love just won. Eventually." "Love and a very determined 5-year-old, Sarah corrected. "Our own little matchmaker," Daniel agreed. "Remind me to thank him when he's older." "He already knows," Sarah said softly. "Every time he sees us together, every normal morning, every bedtime story with both of us, he knows he brought us home." "Home," Daniel repeated. "I like the sound of that." They sat in comfortable silence, the night wrapping around them like a promise. Inside, their son slept peacefully, dreaming of dinosaurs and birthday cake. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new joys, new moments to treasure. But tonight, they were simply a family who'd found their way back to each other. A love story interrupted, but not ended. A second chance grabbed with both hands and held tight. "I love you," Sarah whispered into the darkness. "I love you too," Daniel replied. "Both of you, forever and ever." And in the quiet of their backyard, under stars that had watched their story unfold, they held each other and knew that sometimes the longest road leads to the sweetest destination. Sometimes love needs to be lost before it can be truly found. And sometimes a little boy's innocent heart knows exactly what his parents need, even when they've forgotten it themselves. Their story wasn't perfect. It was messy and complicated and full of mistakes. But it was theirs, a family forged not just by blood, but by choice, by forgiveness, by the kind of love that survives separation and grows stronger for the breaking. As they headed inside, Daniel paused at Ethan's door, watching their son sleep. "Thank you," he whispered to the sleeping child, "for finding me, for bringing us all home." Sarah slipped her hand into his, and together they walked to their room, not his or hers, but theirs. A simple word that held all their tomorrows, all their promises, all their love. Outside, the world went on spinning. But inside this house, a family slept peacefully, completely, finally whole. The billionaire CEO, the woman who'd loved him enough to leave, and the little boy who'd loved them both enough to bring them back together, forever and ever, just as love intended. Thank you for joining us on this emotional journey. If this story touched your heart, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Remember, it's never too late for second chances, and sometimes the greatest love stories are the ones that take the scenic route home. Until next time, keep believing in love, forgiveness, and the power of family.